Welcome back to the Titanium Hanger. This is Mike, and today I want to talk to you about tariffs again. There's an overwhelming response to people wanting me to talk about this, and I want to keep this channel, keep the politics off this channel more so everybody has a safe space, and there's no reason to disagree on that. Let's disagree on the toys and the collecting and all that kind of stuff, but people want my response to this, so what I'm going to do is show you guys the facts. I'm going to go through this, discuss why it's going on, what we know about this so far, what's occurred, and what is about to occur. And I think that what's about to occur is probably the most concerning for most people. But I will say this, that I have 24 years of hard-nosed business experience. I've got a master's degree in MBA, and I have shipped hundreds of items internationally, so dealt with customs declarations. So I understand all of this. So it's not like I'm just making any of this stuff up, but we've had some retailers that have stated that the tariffs are causing them some issues and they're delaying shipments because of it, because of the tariffs, the 145% from China. Plus, we're going to have a little bit of a laugh. There's a funny video. I'm going to show a little bit of it in here and talk about that aspect of this. But I would have never embarked on this. I would have never done this because I'm a free trade guy, but I'm actually finding out that free trade's the end goal, one of the end goals in here. But let's talk about this and more coming up. All right, first off, we got to talk about why are these tariffs being imposed? What's the end game on this? Because you can't stop it. I can't stop it. If I can't call Trump up and say, end this now, I want no tariffs on my toys. That's not how it works. Now, I do want to say that the press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, did do a great job of summing up the goals in this, the outcome that's expected, and communicating on this. It's nice and refreshing to see the press secretary answer all these questions directly. All right, so the goal here is to reduce or eliminate the tariffs on U.S. goods. This is to make our companies more competitive, but if you look at this, and this is all the countries, so I'm going to get a clearer picture here in just a second, but you can kind of look and see that all these countries charge some level of percentage of tariffs on U.S. goods so that their country and their companies can have an advantage, a competitive advantage out there. We can argue whether or not that should be a thing, but it is a thing, obviously. And I didn't realize that there was so much here. And you see, some of these percentages seem kind of low, but in some cases when it's 90-something%, that's because they have 300% in some categories. It's broken up into, generally each country has different categories that they charge higher amounts because they want to protect those industries in their country. As you see right here with this chart, I'm just going to take all this at face value and just run with it. But I did look into a few countries specifically, and it was early on in all of this, and it's just all over the place. The amount of tariffs charged by other countries to U.S. goods is astonishing. And it's funny because if we do it, it's the end of the world. But it's perfectly fine for all these other countries to do it to the U.S. I'm a free trade guy. Wipe the whole slate clean, call it all zero. But that'll never happen, but we could get pretty close. All right, so what's happened so far with all of this, though, with Trump and Xi Jinping fighting back and forth with this tariff war? We're up to 145% tariff on China. I do not see this 6 months from now still being 145%. I see this as a negotiating tactic, but at the end of this, still having some tariff on China, but having it be like 10 to 25%, something along those lines, and China eliminating their tariffs from the U.S. But this is going to be kind of a standoff. So it's going to be, I guess, a U.S.-China standoff. And with that, I don't know how long it'll last. It probably won't go past 6 months, in my opinion, but it could be a very rough 6 months. And we could start seeing a lot of things break down, a lot of distribution channels breaking down. And with all of that, it is what it is. I'll talk a little more about this at the end because this is kind of a summary at the end of this. But this is where we're at right now with Chinese goods. This is what's really scaring everybody. Second goal here is to bring manufacturing back to the U.S. Now, you're going to be watching a video. This is a video from a Chinese TikToker that used AI to create a video. Now there's like 7 different videos. I'm going to try to pepper in some pictures on top of some video to just kind of see whatever YouTube allows here. But it's funny. It's fun. Two things that they got wrong here in this video, though, of course, we would have more automation. And second of all, every one of my friends or any of my employees, I've had tons of employees that left the restaurant industry where I work to go out into the world of manufacturing and are still there today. I talked to about 4 people this past week, actually within the last 2 weeks, and they're all still there. The longest term one was like, hey man, I've been there 20 years. I got about 7 more years, I'm going to retire. But they all like it because manufacturing in the U.S., you make a decent wage. They're all making decent wages. They're all doing really well. And the job, although it is mundane and it is very, very highly repetitive in the manufacturing, it still pays the bills. It's the best income. Here in Oklahoma, it's a premier job. In China, I don't think they look at it as a premier job. Here's a chart of Chinese minimum wage in yuan and in dollars. And so it's looked at as kind of a low-paying minimum wage kind of job. But still, it is a job, and it's still a way to support their families in China. But over here in the U.S., yes, the reason that manufacturing in the U.S. is a lot more challenging is the wage, but it's also all the red tape from the thousands of regulations that the U.S. manufacturers have to deal with that do not exist in China. It's just a fact. Bringing those jobs over to the U.S. will strengthen the U.S., but it is very important to understand that the U.S. needs to be self-sufficient. We are not self-sufficient every year. We are more and more dependent on products, goods, and necessities from other countries. And the goal of this administration is to make the U.S. 100% self-sufficient. I don't know if we'll hit 100%, but we should be, at least when it comes to the necessities like food, pharmaceuticals, and energy, those kinds of things. And when it comes to toys, I mean, it's not even a consideration for this administration, so they're not worried about that. I do see, though, I have looked into China, I don't see any really, really horrible working situations, but maybe that is just being kept a secret. But all of the videos that I've seen, they seem to be fair working conditions. The reason I bring that up is because you don't have to be as heavily regulated as the U.S. to have a safe work environment. All right, so the third goal here is to eliminate income tax in the U.S. on people that make less than $150,000 a year. So $150,000 a year or less, to eliminate that. I don't know if that's actually going to happen because, of course, you've got to continue cutting the government. Government is 4 times too big, and what did they cut? 5%? So they got another 70% to go to get us to where we can actually achieve this. But since income tax is illegal, well, unconstitutional, immoral, unethical, taxing people's productivity, yes, they made it legal with a 16th Amendment. Yes, they made it legal right there in 1913. We've operated longer without income tax. And if you question whether or not it's immoral or unethical, just think about what's going on right now with people that just had to file their taxes and all the stuff that people are trying to come up with to get out of taxes, income taxes, taxing productivity. People are ashamed of their productivity. People that work 90 hours a week are like, maybe I wish I would have only worked 30. Like some of these other people. The glass ceiling that is with our tax code is completely and utterly broken. But if we can institute this $150,000 a year, I'll go back to work. I haven't worked a job in 7 years. But I'll go back to work, and I'll go back to making 6 figures if it's fair again. Well, it never really was fair, but if it's fair going forward. I really loved my 7-year vacation, just having fun, making videos about toys and collecting and full-time collecting. But I'll go back to work instantly if this institutes. Next up is, the next goal of this is trade deficits. So eliminate or reduce trade deficits with other countries. So that's, I mean, I'm not making this up. This is from Caroline Leavitt in her press secretary, her speech, and she came right out and hit us with all of this. This is the goal. These are the goals, and it follows up with what we've heard, but you don't hear this in mainstream media because anything associated with tariffs has to be bad, right? There's no positive outcome. But anything we do to fix the problems, anything that gets us to reducing the $37 trillion in debt is going to be painful. There's no way around it. This is the avenue, the way our current administration is going about it, and I hope we see some positive results at the end of it. But again, I have no say-so in what's going on right here. Now, there's been a lot of videos coming either out of China or from people in China, but they're on a U.S. page, translating some stuff over, talking about stuff. So there could be some stuff lost in translation, but they're showing empty factories. They're showing that there already was what they call a domestic downturn, a domestic sharp decrease in demand, meaning that the people that live in China, the 1.3 billion people in China, all these numbers, the trillion, a billion, but 1.3 billion people in China, the demand is dropping because they're already hurting over there. We've been in a depression worldwide for 2 years. It's just been covered up, and it's now going to unravel. But the reality behind all of this is the fact that Xi Jinping is still holding strong, even with citizens struggling. I don't really want to see any citizens struggle. I don't want this to cause pain to people. No matter whether you agree with what a government's doing in any country, there are good people just doing the same exact thing like we are doing. We're trying to live a good life, work hard to support our family, and be treated fairly. And with all of that, this is causing issues. It's causing pain for Chinese citizens. It's causing pain for U.S. citizens. And Xi Jinping has rolled out yet another, instead of just upping the tariffs, because he said it's ridiculous to go past what it is now. It's not going to do anything to just keep having a measuring contest. And now he is cutting off access to vital materials, mining materials. And one thing I have to say is that China has the infrastructure in place for manufacturing. China has the infrastructure in place for getting the materials needed for the manufacturing stuff they manufacture. And they have control of that. And with all of that, being able to restrict that to where U.S. manufacturers can't get their hands on it as easily it's actually kind of a smart move. But how long can he hold out? I don't think it'll exceed 6 months. Now, for what most people tuned in for was to find out what I've been talking about. I'm hoping Shozi Store has a workaround for this. Being able to ship to the U.S. with either no tariffs or with low tariffs. Now, the reason people are concerned about that is the whole de minimis thing. And we'll see that May 2nd. On May 2nd, there's going to be the whole de minimis workaround. And somebody said a de minimis reach around, but the thing is this closes a loophole for packages that are coming to the U.S. and not get tariffs. Most of us in the U.S. have never seen a tariff. Don't even know how to pay for it. Have no clue even how do you even pay for a tariff. And so this is kind of throwing people off. And May 2nd, I guess we'll find out, because I have no clue. I'm used to filling out custom declarations for other people in other countries. I'm not used to paying a tariff on something that I get in. We're so used to free trade. It's a one-sided free trade in the U.S., and now it's going to be two-sided unfree trade. Hopefully, at the end of it, it's closer to free trade all around. So kind of back to this whole idea of shipping. When Shozi sends a package out, it has a label that looks a lot like this. And once it gets to the U.S., then it's kind of slapped with yet another label. And this is kind of what I wanted to research more and figure out. Now, these are generic labels I pulled off of the internet so that there's no parties involved. But the thing is that something's going on in Texas, in Grapevine, Texas, where it generates a new label. It says from the warehouse, and I'll read this exactly to you. It says warehouse manager, and it's Grapevine, Texas, and then it comes the rest of the way. And it's kind of strange, too, because it's slapped over this original label. The thing is that I just went and checked my ramen toy package that I got most recently, my last TF Direct package I got, because I do get, if I miss it at Shozi, I got to find it somewhere else as cheap as I can. And all of that stuff, I have to say, they only have the Chinese label. They don't have a U.S., and the U.S. label is actually a parcel select label, so it does look a little bit different than the one that you're looking at. But Is this a workaround? Or is this a forwarding company? Or is this... I don't know. But I always thought this was odd because I only see this from Shozi. Not any of the other vendors. And I've bought from 5 or 6 places in China. Also, there's also this discussion here of the value per item kind of discussion, which I really don't understand what's going to happen with that. But I believe that if you truly want to work around this, it's a possibility to say that whatever you're shipping out is only worth like 15 or 20 bucks. And then your tariff shouldn't exceed the value of the item. Now, one of the problems with that is they're kind of trying to say that June 1st, they're going to go up to $50 per item, no matter what you value it at. And that's kind of a problem. But they're also trying to say 30% of the value or 25 per item. I'm not sure how that's going to work. And then 50 on June 1st. The bigger problem with this, so understating the value to get a lower tariff sounds like a perfect plan. Nothing can go wrong unless we get another shipping container to fall in the ocean or it somehow gets lost. You're only insured for the value of your item. So if you're trying to say it's worth 20 bucks, then you're insured for 20 bucks. If you're shipping a $400 Fans Toys figure, then you're only going to get 20 bucks back. That's not going to work. Or are you willing to roll with it and risk it? I don't know. So like I said, I really didn't want to make this video, but May 2nd's coming. I'm curious what's going to happen. And I'm getting a kick out of all these kind of AI generated videos that are popping up now that's kind of populated. I'm watching them. It's funny, but it's still serious at the same time. This is a big deal. It's a serious deal. And I hope that cooler heads prevail. We achieve the goals we want to achieve. And we all are happy and free trading with each other. And things are working out within 6 months. But we could also have 4 years of this. And there's one more point that nobody's talking about. Well, actually, I heard somebody today talk about it. And with that, if you're new to the channel and you're just wanting to learn about tariffs, then you're not going to know anything about the toy stuff, the collecting. But most of this stuff that they're putting out is just literally reissues. Most of the stuff's coming is reissues. And if reissues that are going to be reissued for $55 or $65 are going to come out now $120 or whatever, which, by the way, it's based off of cost. The 145% of cost, not 145% of MSRP. But this is a good time to sell your stuff. You can sell your stuff. This is a really good time because tax season came. All the people that got the extra money, they actually cleared a lot of the excess stock off the market on the secondary market. There is still stuff lingering, but you can get out there and sell your stuff. Take advantage of this. Now, when it comes to money and it comes to finance, everything that's bad has a silver lining for you to make money. For anyone to make money. You want to sell your old stuff. You want to sell your extra stuff. And I might list a few hundred of my old Hasbro ones because I'm kind of thinking I'm going to move on from the Hasbro stuff and mostly stick with the Legends and the Masterpiece. But this is a silver lining if you take it that way. Anyway, I tried to make this as apolitical, non-political, unpolitical as possible, but it's 100% a political topic. So it's kind of hard to dance around it too much. And where do I stand? I don't agree with everything, but hopefully at the end of it, it's going to work out. And at the end of the day, there will be some positives. We could be stronger as a country in the U.S. And guess what? Every other country is going to be unaffected by China and what China produces. So they're winning. So every other country, Canada and UK and all of them, they're winning. But this is sold out. Petty Arm Hanger out.